I never knew there was a love like this before. Never had someone to show me a love like this before. I never knew there was a love like this before. Never had someone to show me a love like this before.
What's up, everyone? It's Books&Looks TV. Today, I am going to be doing part 1 of my series, The Light-Skinned Eldest Daughter Trope. So again, this is going to be a series for the sake of time because I am not a full-time YouTuber and it's a lot to unpack. And so I thought it would be really interesting to start on The Cosby Show. So The Cosby Show centers on the lives of the Huxtables, obstetrician Cliff and his lawyer wife Claire, their daughters Sandra, Denise, Vanessa, and Rudy, and son Theo. The Cosby Show sparked heated debates about the cultural messages that this landmark program disseminated about race in America. Viewers and critics approached the program with conflicting assumptions about how a wealthy Black family should be represented in a domestic sitcom, with their various premises reflecting, as well as their understanding of queer fantasies of genre, family-friendly programming, and in this instance, the erotic innocence of Black children, as stated by Tyson Pugh. One of the 5 kids in the Huxtable family, the one you might not remember quite as well as the others, is the eldest, Sandra Huxtable. She was played by Sabrina Leigh Booth. Sandra wasn't in as many episodes of The Cosby Show as the other kids in the family because her character began the series away at college. Ironically, both Sandra and Denise are the lighter-skinned daughters and the 2 eldest on the show. In Sandra's first appearance, she is a 20-year-old college sophomore. She earned a degree from Princeton University. She married her boyfriend Elvin in season 4 and later gave birth to a boy-girl twins named after Nelson and Winnie Mandela. She was the more earnest and responsible of the other children. Sandra fits many of the characteristics of an eldest child, though she had her moments of bizarre thinking, like dropping out of law school to open an outdoor shop. Usually snap out of them relatively quickly. Because of her intelligence level and overachieving nature, she's looked upon by her parents proudly, but also is held to a higher standard than the rest of the children, like many eldest daughters. Sandra was created when Bill Cosby wanted the show to express the accomplishment of successfully raising a child, for example, a college graduate. I will argue that Whitney Houston was considered for the role of Sandra Huxtable, but did not want to give up her emerging music career. So perhaps if that casting was done, the show would be a bit different. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Since Sandra was rarely present on the show, I literally thought Denise was the oldest daughter, which I guess doesn't matter for this trope because they both were biracial or ambiguous looking. Some people had an issue that the parents were Black, but the 2 eldest daughters were mixed. And I think that in Black TV cinema, this happens. Denise was so desirable that she even got her own spinoff show to a degree in A Different World. Of course, A Different World wasn't made primarily, but Denise happened to be in the early season and she was someone who was already known. And I think that level of desirability and popularity helped The Different World take off to a degree. Denise enrolled in Hillman, where she was roommates with Maggie and Jaleesa during her sophomore year. She wasn't taking school seriously at the time. She procrastinated a lot and struggled to manage her time and money. She happened to dislike Willie Gilbert and endured Dwayne Wade's crush on her. Denise left Hillman after her sophomore year, although she returned home where she pursued various short-lived part-time jobs before traveling to Africa to become an assistant for a wildlife photographer. On The Cosby Show, she would later marry United States Navy Lieutenant Martin Kendall and become a stepmother to his daughter Olivia. By the final season of The Cosby Show, Denise was living in Singapore with Martin, and it was revealed that she was pregnant. And so the third daughter I'm going to discuss is Vanessa Huxtable. Vanessa was played by the actress Tempest Bledsoe. When she grew up, she faced typical teenage problems and heartbreaks, such as wearing makeup before her 15th birthday and violation of her parents' rules. Unlike her older brother, she was an excellent student and seemed to enjoy school. At the beginning of season 7, she went off to college 1 year early. Throughout much of the series, Vanessa is characterized as boy crazy, but her girlish infatuations paradoxically reinforce the efficacy of her parents' lessons. After sneaking away with her boyfriend Jeremy, she teeters between conflicting desires to follow her passions or her parents' admonitions. Vanessa goes on to say, I think we should stop. Jeremy, why? Aren't you enjoying it? Vanessa, yeah, too much. That's why I stopped. Jeremy, you don't have to stop. They kiss again. Vanessa, Jeremy, I can't. What would my parents say if they knew I was up here? In the episode, Truth or Consequences. Then there's the two apples scene. Vanessa tells Claire and Cliff that she's going to her friend Kara's house to help with her homework. However, she actually intends to be with her boyfriend Jeremy in his parents' car at an overlook. So she's pressured by Jeremy to break her curfew to continue to spend time with him. The next day, Claire and Cliff invite Jeremy over to talk to him about his negative influence on Vanessa. Cliff is curious to know just how far Jeremy went with Vanessa while they were together, so he uses two apples as representations of them and is curious to know if they had engaged in sexual activity. And then there's the episode, How Did You Get to Carnegie Hall? So there's a storyline that Vanessa and her friends Janet and Cara form a singing group, the Lipsticks. Cliff and Claire are shocked by the girls' low-cut and suggestive outfits emphasizing their breasts, and Claire pulls out the tissues stuffed in Vanessa's bra. The episode reads as an indictment of the lax morality promoted by popular culture from which the Cosby Show distanced itself, yet it is also significant for establishing the boundaries of Cliff's lessons in sex for his children and for children in his audience. In this instance, not to say what it is, but to condemn children's natural interest in sexuality. It is further clear that Cliff's paternal interest in his daughter's sex lives revolves around maintaining their virginity until their wedding nights. And so in this excerpt, the author is basically talking about how Bill Cosby is trying to present like a grounded Black family or well-respected Black family. And so ironically, the show obviously shows how teenagers are trying to be themselves, represent themselves, whatever. But Cliff is supposed to be a representation of basically a father figure who's always checking their daughters and making sure that they remain pure, especially because Bill Cosby has been big on the African American image. And that's kind of why the Cosby Show was created in the first place. I think it is obvious that teenagers are discovering themselves, and a part of that is their sexuality. Yet, it's interesting to me how Vanessa was depicted as more sexually expressive than her lighter-skinned older sisters. So, I didn't want to talk about Rudy too much because of like the age difference. I know Rudy got older over time, but I didn't feel like it was much to compare, given she wasn't a teenager for a long time like many of her older sisters. But I did notice she was notably darker skinned as the youngest. In my opinion, she got away with a lot of minuscule things, as the baby often does, or the youngest child often does. So now I'm going to go to my public opinion piece and then conclude. First, public opinion. I used to think the Cosby Show was unrealistic because Cliff and Claire had a mix of light and brown skinned children, but it happened to me in real life. Then there's another topic that says everything wrong with the Cosby Show. Someone says Sandra and Denise Huxtable being played by biracial actresses. Ditzy, hippie Denise ended up with a naval officer. Martin and Denise sticking his kid on her parents. And why didn't her mother ever come to see her after that one time having Thanksgiving dinner with the Huxtables? Cliff and Claire didn't seem to like the twins very much. Poor Rudy was pretty much forgotten once Olivia came along. Lisa Bonet is biracial with an African-American father and Jewish mother. I always thought Sabrina LaBeouf was multi-generational mix. Sabrina was born in New Orleans, and judging from the last name, I think she is of Louisiana Creole heritage. I think to some extent the casting is to grow the non-Black viewership. Ambiguity sells in a multicultural country. So I'm going to conclude with this quote. It says, Black women come in all shades, and that needs to be reflected. Otherwise, Hollywood is selling the lie that it cares about the inclusion of Black women when it really doesn't. In this scenario, that's very true. Black women do come in all shades, and I don't think it's anything wrong with biracial characters having roles, but I just always think it's weird how the eldest, even though they're teenagers, are kind of like sexualized, and like the author said earlier, mixed people are like pretty much objectified, and so it's like, oh, they're beautiful enough to consume through the television, especially to white viewers, and so they're also misused. But also, there are roles where I do feel like Black women should represent Black women. And so, like, if their parents were, like, monoracial, or if one mixed, or if it was a biracial family, it would have been kind of like, okay, I can see this. But it's just weird how the eldest child is always depicted in the way they are, and not even just like being objectified. Like, all of the characters are objectified. Well, the two oldest characters, they just happen to be lighter skinned, which was seen as desirable. But Vanessa, she happened to be seen as the rebel, and she was the one chasing guys and just boy crazy. Whereas I feel like Denise and Sandra's characters, though Denise kind of gave me middle child vibes, she still was able to explore more, and to me she was seen as a bit more respectable, even though she kind of went left. And the oldest child, she seemed like she had to kind of always get it right, and she had like a rigid characteristic. Vanessa, to me, besides her like being darker skinned and a bit hypersexualized, I feel like she had a lot of opportunities and she had a vibrant personality. But I also think it's interesting how well-rounded Vanessa was, but how that like hypersexual traits was constantly repeated throughout the show. And I also think it's interesting how just in general, all of the girls had to be kind of, I guess, what would be considered Black excellence because of the Cosbys. And that's kind of all I have to say about this topic. What do you all think down below? Did I overlook something? Or just what are your general thoughts? Thank you for listening to Books and Looks TV. I'll see y'all next time.